when you look at the current roster construction for the Toronto Raptors and look at the age range of some of our core players, Masai Ujiri may have made the perfect draft selection to fit in amongst this current group in Christian Koloko at the 33rd overall pick in this year's NBA draft, because this man is looking like a stud. He's a 7-foot-plus center that's going to come in and probably have an impact right away. So I'm going to break down who this guy is, what impact he could have on the season coming forward, and what his potential future is with the Toronto Raptors. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down the newest Toronto Raptor, Christian Koloko. The new, not a first round pick. We only have one draft pick this year. Selected a couple of undrafted guys that I'll cover in future videos. But Koloko's the only guy we picked up there on draft night. Get his name called, selected, and it's looking like a bit of a steal for the Toronto Raptors. Now, there was some pressure on Masai Ujiri for this draft pick because obviously we traded away our first, and in return in that Thaddeus Young-Goran Dragic trade, we moved back in the draft as we ended up acquiring that Detroit Pistons second round pick that we ended up making the selection for on Thursday evening. But since we moved back and they made comments during midseason saying, oh, we don't see a wide range in terms of talent between players at 20th and 33rd where we ended up selecting. So if that's the case, Masai, if that's true, right, you gotta be selecting, bringing someone that's gonna get Raptors fans excited. And boy, as a Raptors fan, am I excited. Bobby Webster even came out and said that he had Koloko in his top 20. Top 25-ish range in terms of where he wanted. They obviously make boards where they evaluate players, and Koloko is a top 20 talent according to Bobby Webster. And looking at this guy, researching him, seeing who this guy is, I tend to agree. Obviously, people know I'm not a draft guy. I don't know much about college. I don't watch many of the games or anything like that. But watching the highlight reels, looking at the stats, looking at the intangibles, Koloko is looking like a steal for the Toronto Raptors. Now, who is this player? He's from Cameroon, the same hometown as Pascal Siakam. So there's a previous relationship there, which is pretty exciting, pretty cool story to have as a narrative, bringing in a guy obviously being from the same place as your star player in Pascal. But he's a 7'1" center with a 7'5" wingspan. I've seen the height range be reported differently on different outlets, but most people have him listed at 7'1". And just look at the height of him playing in games, I'd be hard-pressed to expect or believe that he's under 7 foot, but he's a solid rim protector, a ridiculously strong athlete, pegged as a very strong defender that's versatile, can move, is switchable, and is a guy that Nick Nurse has even come out and said that you might be able to, there might be more freedom now for Raptors players, Raptors wing defenders to be more aggressive, because having Koloko back there to sort of swat shots at the rim, deter any drivers going in, trying to finish around the lane, right? That could be huge for the Toronto Raptors team. Obviously, people have been calling for a center a bunch. He's also 22 years old, which I'm fairly encouraged by, because big men always take a while to develop. They take usually a couple years, especially guys coming that are one-and-done players. They take a couple years to sort of get in their groove, get in their rhythm. I'm going to break down his development over his 3-year career at the University of Arizona. But being 22, that means he's already filled out, and visually looking at him, he's already a filled out guy, right? He's not one of those completely skinny players coming in. He's a guy that I think will be able to bang right away from day one, being 22 years old, having a little bit of a touch around the rim. I'm going to discuss the jump shot later on now, but let's take a look at his stats at his throughout his career in Arizona. Clearly, just looking at him, he took a massive leap from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 in his final season at Arizona. 12 points per game, average about let's see where these stats are at. The weird box scores, the weird college box scores, they get me confused as to where the numbers are. But about 1.4 assists per game, and the total rebounds, 200 rebounds per game. Average 7.3 rebounds. I apologize. I'm not that great of a reader of this box score. He can block shots. He does everything out there on the court. And from all accounts, right, he's a solid defender, right? Those are the things we know about Koloko, and we know the steps, the elevations that he made year by year in his university career. They're all encouraging stuff. Now, the questions, right? The questions about Koloko. We know he's an athlete. We know he defends. We know he rebounds. And we know that he takes leaps. He has potential for growth. But the questions, first thing, wasn't much of a three-point shooter at all in college. Didn't make one. 0 3-pointers made. But in the Toronto Raptors, you look at the centers that we brought in over the years. Throughout the years, we make people shoot regardless. And I am a little bit encouraged about Koloko's jump shot because if you look at that stats, I'll pull it up one more time. I won't read it verbatim, but the free throw shooting is usually an indicator if a guy can one day step out behind the three-point line. And he went from 35% in his first year on low attempts, I might add, but to 62% in his second year to 73%, which is pretty respectable. Right, it's not great by any means, but 73% is pretty respectable. But that's one thing that encourages me because how many NBA players have we seen just come into the league as bad shooters and just get worse, or even, or just stay stagnant, regress, do all these sorts of things, right? The fact that he improved as a free throw shooter throughout the years is something that's showing he's working on that jump shot. He's not being a big man that's saying, okay, I'm leaving this to the back of my game, and, obviously, the college three-point line's a step further out, but the free throw line in the NBA and college is the same place. So, if he can continue to improve that free throw shooting, get it to maybe 80% in the 80% range, that's going to be huge as a 7-footer, an athletic big man. That means he can close games and be a threat out there and not be a, Rudy Gobert or Ben Simmons getting hacked at the end of games and just missing the free throws. And the second thing that encourages me about the jump shot, because we know Nick Nurse loves having big men that can shoot threes, is the draft combine. And you look at the highlights I got playing on the side of the film here as well of Koloko. The jump shot doesn't look broken. It looks something that can definitely be worked with as a Toronto Raptors jump shooting staff. We saw what we did to jumpers like Norman Powell's, who came into the league not expected to be a knockdown shooter at all, more of a slashing guy. And by the time we trade him, he was shooting 45% from the three-point line. So that's where we can develop jumpers, but there's not broken by any means. You can see it there. Nothing too sketchy about that jump shot. But during the draft combine himself, you look at this leaderboard in a three-point star drill. He shot 64%, 16 of 25, third best on this sort of list, ahead of Justin Champagny. Shout out Champagny Poppy. Champagny Poppy's brother.
Yeah. All right.
Right,
Yeah.
Julian Champagny. Love to see that. But third best in the draft combine in the three-point shootout. So obviously didn't shoot many in college. Obviously set three-point shots in a gym is much different than in game when defenders are running at you. But if he can be a threat that can at least knock down open threes into his rookie year, he's going to get minutes. He's going to get minutes on this roster, right? Nick Nurse, if you can play defense, you're getting minutes, but especially if you can just be a threat out there, not be a complete liability to the point, I don't think he'd be a reliability regardless if he's making jump shots or not, because you throw him in the dunker and he looks like he could finish around the rim. But if you can also space the floor a little bit, be a zone buster as a big man, that could be huge, especially with Scotty Barnes, even though he has improved his jump shot, and that's another whole storyline going into next season. The more spacing you have around Scotty Barnes, the better. So that's another encouraging thing about Koloko. But given his age, given the jump shot potential, and obviously all the intangibles he already proved in college, this is looking like a quintessential Toronto Raptors steal of the draft. That's all I'm throwing out there. I don't want to get too excited. I want to see how he does in Summer League. Now, I might be putting too much pressure, too much expectations on a big man because they usually take years to develop in the NBA. But the fact he's 22 makes me think maybe not this season, but at least next year, we're going to see a lot from Koloko being a rotation player. And I think he'll be in the rotation this season, just given we don't have any of those 7-1 guys, and we clearly needed one last year, at least throughout the regular season, to bang down low with the bigs. So guys like Siakam, guys like OG Anunoby, guys like, well, Fred's not playing in the post, but having to do more work on the rebounding, right? Having a big out there just to take the load off of those guys, just doing all the dirty work on defense. It makes people stay more healthy, be more rejuvenated over the course of the season. So at minimum, I think he's going to be a rotation piece for this Toronto Raptors team, assuming we don't trade for Gobert or something random like that. That's another thing I do want to bring up. I do want to sort of discuss. I think bringing in Koloko makes me... Obviously, I made a bunch of videos on Ayton and Gobert and all that sort of stuff, but I'm less inclined to give OG up in any of those packages. Now that we have just a 7-foot prospect alongside Mr. Propaganda himself, Precious Achiuwa, who I'm very high on at the center position, playing that role, especially late in games and all that. But the fact that we also have Koloko, a young prospect with this hype, I don't want to be trading OG for a center now at all. I think the Raptors sort of have their holes filled. I think this was a smart pickup, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what more things. It seems like a great quote. Seems like a really good guy just from the interviews and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, high character players is needed, a prerequisite to become a Toronto Raptors usually. So that's what we like to see. That's what we want for this Toronto Raptors squad. But let me know what you guys think. The Raptors' newest draft prospect. I'm going to be making a bunch of videos on the guys we select as undrafted free agents as well. So subscribe to Raptors Digest. You guys are the best for making this far. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. Enough of me rambling. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.